Hi, my name is Michael Gilmore, and I'm the writer of Whizbang's blog and also one of the co-founders of ParkLogic.com. In this week's report on the impact of COVID-19 to the domain PPC or monetization industry, we're looking at some broader aspects to the whole scenario, what's been going on this past week as well. And I must admit, I've been really looking forward to this data coming out to see, is the domain traffic industry going to be able to hold up in the onslaught which is happening to business around the world? And to me, there's these two competing aspects to it. One is, are the advertisers still after the traffic? But then there's more people coming online. So is more people coming online, which means more traffic driving down EPC rates? And are the advertisers still wanting to come on there from the businesses when you consider the impact that COVID-19 has had on business around the world has been staggering. But then you get other data such as coming out where there's been a mass migration of small to medium-sized enterprises really embracing, in a rapid sense, of the online sort of way of doing business. And so you sort of think, well, has that begun to offset the fact that you get the likes of the Amazons and so forth and Walmarts who have said, we're not doing any more online advertising for the foreseeable future? And you sort of think, well, what is actually going on here? Who's going to win out? And so we've been seeing that Google has released some interesting data as part of their quarterly results, which I'll mention in a few minutes' time. And also we've seen some of our own data begin to really hone in on what is going on. So it's really quite interesting. So as well as our normal set of slides, I'm adding a few more extras in there, and with the purpose of showing what's happening on a day or a weekday basis since the beginning of the year, and what's happening to traffic and everything, which I think should mix up a bit and add a little bit more interest. So without further ado, let's get stuck into the slides and we'll take things from there. Okay, so the impact of COVID-19, week seven, that important week 7. So what's actually happened? Well, Ad News reported that Google's advertising revenues are slowing down, which is not a surprise, but it is a surprise, as I was saying before. But putting this into perspective, it's slowing down. In other words, it's not growing as fast as it was before. So it's not going to a negative situation. It's just slowing down. So, which is amazingly surprising. But there was a key quotation from the CFO of Alphabet, Google's parent company, I'd like to highlight in that report was, performance was strong during the first 2 months of the quarter, but then in March, we experienced a significant slowdown in ad revenues, says Ruth Porat, CFO of Alphabet and Google. So we experienced a significant slowdown in ad revenues. So did we see that at ParkLogic? No, we actually didn't see that. We're actually beginning to see it now. And that's why we need to take a look at what's happening with the data. So here we go. Now, just to help us understand the data a bit more, I've actually made a fourth order polynomial trend line to fit the curves to see what's going on. So if we take a look at the overall normalized RPM and RPM trend lines, where the red line is the RPM and the normalized RPM is the blue line. And you can see the blue line has gone over. So it's beginning to trend down, sure, off a bit of a peak there. It's definitely heading downwards, which is a little bit concerning. The RPM is also going down, which maybe this is a reflection of what the Google CFO has been saying, or maybe not. Maybe it's just going to go down up. But remember, it's significantly higher than the lows that we saw at the beginning of March, end of February. So a lot higher there. So What's happened with the click-through rates and EPC rates? EPC rates have also, it looks like they're on a dip going downwards. And there was a bit of a fall away with EPC. I'm not sure what that was, I must admit. It's just, so not EPC, CTR. It just dropped back and has sprung back into place. So I don't know whether that was a reporting issue or what that needs to be dug into. But EPC rates, I think they're a little bit softer there. So could be that Google CFO is onto something. All right, so this is the volatility index. Now remember, if it's green, that means we're expanding. I'm looking at the comparison of normalized RPM from one weekday to the previous weekday. So you can see suddenly we got these spikes going all over the place. It's just jumping up and down, and which shows a massive volatility. So expansion to contraction, expansion, contraction, expansion, and contraction. And now it's gone down, we're contracting. Now, is it contracting to offset the gains we previously had? No, definitely not that. But the following week's day, next week's day is going to be absolutely critical. You mustn't miss that particular report. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. But we're definitely in a contraction stage, and let's hopefully it will not continue. Okay, so Google versus direct advertisers. It's the same old, although there is a tick up at the end. Is that just a part of the normal cycle of things in terms of the red line, which is the direct advertisers compared to the blue line of Google? In terms of the share in the revenues, it's a tough one to say. It really is a tough one to say. And I wouldn't be surprised if it just maintains what's going to maintain. Now, one of the things which has been amazing is that I know we've spoken to some of our direct advertising partners, and the one area got really smashed is travel. Travel is just disintegrated for obvious reasons. And if you're in the travel line of business, you're not advertising right now because there's no one's flying, no one's going anywhere. All the resorts, hotels, everyone is just collapsed in terms of their advertising spend. So, what amazes me is that we haven't seen more volatility because, in many respects, the direct advertisers have access to the travel market. It's more mature than some other markets, and so we have not seen the direct advertisers really get that back. Really fight back there. But we'll be interested to see what occurs. I think maybe some of the other market verticals have really helped come alive for some of the direct advertisers. But the proof will tell in the next few months ahead. Okay, so let's take the Google versus direct advertisers normalized RPM. Now, the red line is the direct advertisers, the blue line is Google. And we mustn't get confused here. Take a look at the axes. Google's using the left axis and the direct advertisers using the right axis. So they're different scales and completely different scales. And that's really, really important to actually understand that. In fact, I could actually just flick this around so you can see the scales so they're both the charts using the same scale, but you just don't see the ups and downs as much. But what we can definitely see is that normalized RPM has fallen off for both Google and direct advertisers. Once again, to put those the polynomial trend lines in so we can see that. Google's is still going up, it looks like, but look, it really has fallen away. We can see just there. Now, there's an uptick at the end, and it will be interesting to see whether that continues on during the week, because that uptick data point, I think, is Monday. So it'll be interesting to see if that's going to be continued to Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and so forth like that. Whether it's going to go in that weekly cycle that we can typically see there. But anyway, so that's the normalized RPM. So what's happened with the volatility? Both direct advertisers and also Google are in that decline stage. Although the interesting thing is that they're not as volatile going up and down just there at the when you separate them out compared to what we saw before. They're smoothing out quite a bit more, but there's definitely in a contraction phase. Okay, now here's some interesting charts I thought I'd prepare for you. And looking at the normalized RPM by day of week. So we have Sunday to Saturday, and we can see the normalized RPM is what's being paid across the board, which is, and you can see that it's like a reverse graph there. Second order graph, but it's Sunday and Saturday are much less. I have some other data in there. It shows that there's much more traffic on those days, which would then artificially depress Sunday and also Saturday. But it's not surprising when people at work, they're in a buying mode. On Sunday and Saturday, they want to be at home with their family and so forth. Maybe they're not spending as much and so forth. So let's take a look at that separated by for Google and direct advertisers. And once again, Google's the blue. And you can see that Google is definitely more pronounced compared to direct advertisers. And it makes me wonder whether when you speak to direct advertisers, they're just wanting volume of traffic. And maybe they're not as sophisticated to buy, to not buy on the weekends or something like that. Or who knows? Or it could be the market verticals that the direct advertising networks are generally dealing with, or whatever it is. But it's very clear that as soon as Monday hits, direct advertisers are peaking Monday, Tuesday, and slowly, I think, as the budgets are consumed, it goes down during the week. On the other hand, you can see there that Google peaks at about Wednesday. So this would be interesting if you look at this and you're in the arbitrage game. There's actually an arbitrage gap there between the two. It's clearly is an arbitrage gap. Remember, Google's using the left axis, direct advertisers right axis, but even just the shape of the curve shows there's an arbitrage gap between both Google and direct advertisers. But anyway, so that's week 7 with COVID and COVID-19, the impact of it. I just want to wish you all the very best. Keep locked down still. And like I said, what we don't want to do is have what happened to Singapore. Singapore is been terrible, where they're like the poster child of the world of how they've locked down and so forth like that. They released constraints, suddenly it exploded out everywhere. Not good, so they'll probably have to go to lockdown again, which is a terrible situation, particularly for the economy and people's livelihoods and everything. So I'm actually quite pleased in Australia. We're locked down still in Victoria anyway, I think till at least May 11th. And I don't mind that. Like, I must admit, being in the industry I am, it's easy for me to say that. But there's what you don't want to do is break lockdown too early, because then you just got to go through the whole thing again, or just be prepared to watch people sadly die. Yeah, my prayers and thoughts are with the US. The US, I think, is in a really bad situation. There's been like so many people exposed. And what staggered me, I looked at the mortality rates. If you get it, you have like an 18% or something like that chance of dying. In Australia, it's 1%. So I don't know what the difference is there. So it's much greater. And so my thoughts are with those families and friends and everything of those people who've got it. Like, we really need to uphold those people with our prayers and our thoughts and do whatever we can for them. And in the meantime, keep washing those hands. I'll keep on bringing out this data, and I look forward to seeing this greater industry of ours, the domain industry, come back alive at a huge surge. You think about it, once we're through the COVID situation and you got all these additional businesses and people used to being online, I think I'm very bullish about the future. But we just got to get through this period of time right now. Keep safe, and God bless you all. Thanks a lot. Hi, I hope you enjoyed that video and that you find this information that I'm providing through my blog and through these videos really interesting. Don't forget, subscribe, whatever you subscribe, so you don't miss out on the next installment I'm going to be releasing. Or you can click on the push alerts on the website. So either two, but anyway, thanks a lot. Bye.